I read the other day this amazing stat: 4% of U.S.-based companies have adopted ChatGPT or other tools like Copilot that comes in your email and 365. So it's still, at the board of directors level, it's getting rolled out really slow. And I can only imagine, having worked at an enterprise level, big tens of thousands of employees company before, it's going to take a long time before they see the effects.
Hello, I am John Brink, and we are podcasting on the Brink from downtown Prince George, British Columbia, Canada. And for all those people that wondering where Prince George is in British Columbia, it's about 500 miles north of Vancouver, or 800 kilometers for European watchers, and it's in the center of British Columbia. Beautiful province. And today we have a very special guest, and his name is Nicolas Lorizio, and he is a very, very interesting person. And let me tell him a little bit about him. He's a business leader, he's a tech guru, he's a best-selling author, and promoting digitalization, and has amazing. He's also the co-founder of an organization called the Astute Technologies Com. And Nick, welcome to the show.
Welcome. Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here. You're one of the best hosts. Your background is incredible. I'm just as interested in you probably are. So thank you for having me.
Yeah, nice having you as well, Nick. Now, you're located just north of Boston in the United States, correct?
I am. So I grew up in Boston. Dad was in the Back Bay. It's one of the oldest cities in the country. And mom was in the suburbs. So school with mom during the week, and it was Red Sox games and baseball with dad on the weekends. So I grew up in the city. I've always loved it, but I ended up falling in love with the outdoors. As I got older and grew up a bit. And when the pandemic hit, I moved just an hour north on the coast in a city called Portsmouth. It's
Yeah.
a 400-year-old city. It has a lot of the Boston charm, and it's a great town. It's an active port city, and it's absolutely lovely. The people are fantastic, and I'm stone's throw away from skiing and hiking and all the fun stuff.
Beautiful location, right? And lots of history, obviously, as well. So, education, Nick, where did you get your educational background? And then, obviously, you went on to further higher level education as well. Maybe give us a bit of an idea about all of that.
Sure. So I went to school in Syracuse, New York, where on the East Coast, from a drivable distance of my hometown, that's the closest I could get to a major D1 university in Syracuse, and really have that experience. However, I went to a smaller private Jesuit school called Lemoyne College, which is part of a network of 20 or some odd Jesuit schools like Boston College. So it's very similar and comparable to that. Um, and I really enjoyed my education. At the time, the liberal arts was tough to get through. However, it paid off a lot as I aged in my career and started to have to think more deeply and make bigger decisions on things. I think that liberal arts education paid off well there. But I really liked the business school, and I double majored in business management and leadership and information systems, which is two really good programs. I saw those as being some of the highest paying and professions maybe I can get a leg up on, um, in life and my career by studying that. So that was a great experience. I really like Syracuse. However, it's way too cold for me.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
have the lake effect snow, right? I'm up by the Canada border almost, and yeah, I moved back home and started my IT career.
So, IT was something important in your life, in your education, when you made the choice. little did you know the potential that it have, other than you saw it as a good future for your career and professionally entrepreneurship, obviously, but in IT and a number of other things relating to it, which we will talk about, had gone far beyond what anybody would have imagined, even at the time that you got your initial education, correct?
Absolutely. And it starts in the household. So my dad worked for Microsoft and Yahoo and Alta Vista, if you can remember Alta Vista.
Yeah, yeah.
So it was dinner room conversation, right? And, I think that that had a large role in me choosing that. I would go to kindergarten class and you'd have the whole class say, it would be bring your parents to class day, and a lot of the kids would say, "Oh, my dad's a firefighter or a police officer," and I'd be like, "Yeah, my dad's a vice president of sales at Alta Vista," and no one knows what you're talking about, right?
Yeah.
So it is funny, when you have that, it's weird to relate because it's not super common to, he had a team of 800 and $1 billion
Wow.
P&L at Microsoft. So I heard these conversations constantly, and I think that that had a big role in me choosing that career path. The last thing that I'll touch on this topic is I was definitely a more introverted kid, and I was more of the engineer mind who would sit behind the computer screen, and it took a lot of hard work to work on the soft skills piece, which now I'm much more focused on doing, and I'm much more extroverted. But it can be
So,
learned.
yeah, yeah. And then the author in you, so did you already have that natural ability to being a good writer and starting with papers? How did you get to the point? Because I believe you have at least two books that you have written about technology and issues around it.
The second one's not published yet, but it's written. So that's
Okay.
correct. I have said that. So I was not much of a reader. I actually have like a little bit of ADHD too, and I don't really talk about that much. But a lot of people do, and I think everyone learns a little bit differently, or whatever. So either way, it's reading is not a skill that I was ever very good at, sitting still and
I find
oh, sure.
it, just for our guests that may, I believe everybody knows, but obviously ADD or ADHD is becoming increasingly more known about it. And obviously I'm a classic example of it, although it took me till I was already 57 years old before I really got diagnosed with ADHD, and then it had still stigma. Now, it's much more common. I wrote a book about it actually, ADHD Unlocked, and so the one thing that I'm going to say about it that is, and we'll maybe talk about it a little bit more later, but I had the book that I initially read that was written by Dr. Halliwell. It was the book's title was Driven to Distraction. He wrote it in 1993 about it's about ADHD, and I walked into a bookstore here in Prince George, and I still don't know today as to why I opened the book. And I opened the book, and it was about ADHD, and I said, "Oh my God, that's me." And I wrote it in Dutch. Now I finally know who I am. I was 57 then. Now, the interesting part about it, Nicholas, just out of curiosity that you may find interesting, he wrote that book and probably 15 other ones. He's ADHD, a medical doctor, and has immense credentials in other areas. I podcasted him 2 weeks ago, and so I bought the book, and I still have the book in 1993 or 1997 in the bookstore, and so as we were discussing ADHD, I always think, and I say that publicly, that I believe that initially I thought 8% of the population maybe have the benefit or liability, whatever or the distraction if you wish, but I think it is a plus of ADHD. And then as I developed it, and the more I got to speaking about it and interacting with people, I believe that it probably is more than 20%. When I had the discussion with Dr. Halliwell and mentioned it to him, that's what I thought. He said, "No, John, it's probably more than 25%." And then the other part that I said is that probably 50% of the successful, and the key part is the successful CEOs or entrepreneurs are likely ADHD. And he said, "No, John, it's probably more than 75%." So we're in good company. So I call it a superpower, and that's all I'm going to say about that part for now. So I interrupt you a little bit there. So
Well, I appreciate that, and it's a topic I definitely wanted to bring up today because I love hearing people's perspectives on it. Because I was like you, I didn't get diagnosed until after college, so I was early 20s,
yeah,
But I grew up and it was nothing's wrong with you. I was fine. I was a normal kid. Maybe didn't sit still well, so the classroom environment. But you can find different ways of working. And to your point, I think there's over 8 million cases in the United States alone. So it's very common, and I don't see it as a disability. I see it as an ability, and it's neat. Like hyper focusing, right, is something we're capable of doing, sitting still and just getting something done very fast. Um, and I think technology's played a big role in making the problem worse, right? I grew up with technology in my hand from a very young age. I think that stimulation has certainly caused a need to, in order for me to be stimulated. A book can't always do that for me, right? I need something like an action movie or a video game that has a lot of action, right, to
yeah.
really grab my.
Now, the other part about it that I find, Nick, is that a typical like for myself, I'm an author. Do a lot of. I'm an in-demand keynote speaker, and a number of locations. I'm very active on podcasting, and then I have half a dozen, 10 companies of different sorts. It's not about that, but simply saying, I have a lot of people say to me, "How can you do all those things?" I'm nearly 80, I'm approaching 84. And he say, "How do you do all those things?" I say, ADHD. That's the reason. And then the other part that I was going to mention is that, and I use that in presentations that I do, is that the people that follow and friends that I have that have gone to, and I failed, I did not, I failed grade 3, and I failed grade 7 3 times. And then they said, "What are we going to do with this guy? Do we send him?" And my parents were beautiful people. I grew up in Holland. And they said, "Should we take him to the mentally challenged school, or do we get him a profession or a job of some sort that he can build a career?" And so fortunately they did that. So I started to become a furniture maker at the age of 13. And then from there on in kind of went my way. But a lot of things that I learned differently than other people did. And then the benefit that I have in a lot of ways is that a lot of my peers in business or some of the organizations that I'm involved in, board of directors and all kinds of leadership roles that I have, is that most people think in a box, and I don't do that. And ADHD is part of that. I usually wander around outside of the box and say, what can we do better? And how will this work? How will that work? And that makes a lot of people feel uncomfortable, but it has made me successful in a lot of ways, and it's not untypical to the ADHD mind.
Absolutely. And there's nothing wrong with finding new ways of working and new ways of learning that work well for you. However, our school system is designed for the mass population. And, it really, I think that's why I chose like the sales path, because you have a lot of flexibility and then eventually becoming an entrepreneur to design and build your own schedule that works well for you, right? Because fitting that mold just doesn't always work for
No,
select
and
employees.
so much so, And I'm going to send you a copy of my book that I did on ADHD, and it explores those different areas. But just coming back to your career, then, so at what point? So you started going, especially in the direction of technology, and then you build a very successful company around that, and today you are obviously one of the co-founders of it and the CEO of that company. Tell us a bit about it. And I kind of looked at, you sent me your bio, and very interesting, but then I always have to kind of go through Google's and find out, I try to find out more about you, so I went through that quite a bit, and so you being very, very active, obviously, but the company that you did, especially in regards to IT and technology, is kind of getting involved in companies or relationships, where technology is the key direction to explore, and how can you do things different or better or more effective, or tell us a little bit about that.
Sure. So I built my profession starting out as a sales engineer. So I actually started on a IT help desk at my college. Out of school, I became a sales engineer as I became more social and kind of grew out of my shell. So that what that role does, and it goes across industries, right? What that role does is it's somebody who is a subject matter expert or product specialist who can articulate the product or the technology in a way that anybody can understand it, right? So I get the pleasure of working with both engineering as well as the sales team, and then being customer facing. So I think that that profession prepare it does prepare you very well to be a business owner someday. So I think that that was great, but I'm able to take the technology and communicate it just to somebody who might be in the car industry or lumber like yourself and say, this is how it works and this is how it should be designed, and then putting a solution and a price around it and all that stuff. So yeah, that was really the idea. And I for other people, I grew my book of business to over 100 customers in New England. I ended up working with four of the 15 largest banks in the country, designing fraud solutions. And really, my focus today with Astute is I kind of started off as a broker, like a Jerry Maguire, if you know. That was kind of my inspiration. I love that movie, and I was kind of going for the broker thing to start without taking on a big bank loan, breaking my bank too much.
Right,
Um,
right.
so I went that route, and now I'm developing, and I have my own patent. My art got passed. I'm doing that. I'm working on the software and continuing to grow the practice. And I'm really excited. We're a super small team, and we're very lean. And I think our Crunchbase rank is under 180,000 for the company,
Right,
which is pretty remarkable.
right.
Without any big bank or VC, we haven't taken any external VC money or PE money or anything. It's just sweat equity and bootstrapped.
So your customer base is pretty much the United States, or do you go beyond?
Well, that's my goal. Is I've started in New England. Like I said, about 100 accounts, and then starting with SMBs primarily, and then I'm definitely looking out. And I've actually recently been thinking a lot about the franchisee model. Geek Squad isn't doing too well, and Geek Squad alone accounts for 2 billion a year. And this is like last time I checked. Right? So they account for 2 billion a year in revenue for Best Buy, which is amazing. And I would say that their model is incredibly.
So what is it called again, Nick? Geek Spot?
Like Geek Squad is a very popular IT help desk that's been around for many years, as long as I can remember. And they try and do everything under the sun. They'll install a TV in your house, they'll repair a broken laptop. Um, you know, Really, I don't want to be in that business at all, right? That's an unpredictable revenue model. And it's just a very dated practice where you want to actually get ahead of these things before they happen. okay, your computer broke. It's 3, 5 years old. Just get a new one. They're probably going to sell you a new one anyway after
Right.
2 hours of high ticket labor that costs as much as an electrician. So, and they're paying these guys $20 an hour. It's cool.
Yeah.
So, I see that as a very dated model. A lot of help desk, even in internal organizations, are still run that way, and it's not going to be around much longer, especially with the acceleration of IT adoption throughout the pandemic, as well as now AI is just going to make, it's just going to be crazy how fast things are going to move.
Oh, I'm losing your voice, Nick.
Oh, sorry about that. I was
Yeah.
saying AI is going to really put the fire under, the process of kind of moving out these old IT traditional help desk models are going to be going out the door.
So let's talk about AI for a bit. Artificial intelligence, obviously, it's relatively new, and the more we hear about it as the public in general, is that it is somewhat scary in a way because the fear is that it is going to take a lot of people's jobs and there will be no guardrails, and then the next thing we're seeing is that they can duplicate somebody's voice or even video, and so I believe the genie is out of the bottle. It will never go back in again. Then it becomes a question of how far will it go, and will there be guardrails, or will it find its own direction? What's your view?
My view is it's a huge positive. I'm super
Yeah.
excited about it, and I'm an early adopter, right? That's what my marketing background at Lemoyne College taught me. And it does pay off in things like this to look at history and look at what's happened in the past, right? When we went from a shovel to an excavator, and I gave this example the other day, um, people were like, "Oh my God, I'm going to lose my jobs." No, we just increased production an incredible amount, right? So we're going to see that same thing. We're going to see a repurposing of employees. I read the other day this amazing stat: 4% of U.S. based companies have adopted ChatGPT or other tools like Copilot that comes in your email and 365. So it's still, at the board of directors level, it's getting rolled out really slow. And I can only imagine, having worked at an enterprise level, big tens of thousands of employees company before, it's going to take a long time before they see the effects. However, it's, I think, an incredible time to start a business or be a small player and automate so many functions because the capability is there. And you can now go out and compete where, when you maybe had some, like yourself, you had $20,000 saved up, and you wanted to go start a business. It was very, very challenging to do that today. But with these tools, I think it's very possible, and I've proven that.
Yeah. So then it becomes a question of where are the opportunities, and if I look at AI in particular, we already see it on a daily basis, either preparing documentation that is fairly standard, very routine, but it will go beyond that. It will, that same as being an author, that using AI will become increasingly more involved in developing papers and books and other documents around complicated topics. Correct?
Oh, no question. I use it to write emails that might have taken me over 30 minutes to write to somebody who is sea level or something, right? I use it constantly, and it's a remarkable tool. However, to your point, there is some sort of like human element or ethics involved, and this is where I've seen AI, right? So when I first started in IT, the first thing I sold or did maintenance on was a fax machine, literally, and to a law firm in Boston. They still like paper somewhat, a little bit, and it's. I've now seen it go from still some paper to taking a laptop where you used to have to physically go on site, deliver it, move the files over, set somebody's picture of their kids up, change all their email accounts to every different service that they have, right? And I've seen it go from there to now your profile, all your files, everything is stored, all your emails are stored in the cloud. It gets loaded on at the factory, wherever that is, or warehouse, right? It gets loaded on, so I'm a Dell partner. It gets imaged at the factory and then gets shipped directly to the consumer with my logo on it. So just think
Unbelievable.
about how much savings that is right there.
Yeah, yeah, and that is only one example. The other one would likely be if you look at litigation and all the documentation that is around it. A lot of it is fairly standard lingo that is being used or process protocol that is being used. And how much of that will become much easier, lower cost, obviously.
Oh, definitely. And I just want to make the point where the human element's always going to be there, because a big concern of ours right now and what's driving a lot of business today in the tech world is cybersecurity.
Yeah,
Um, there's just some stuff you don't want kids to see, or you don't want it to get into hospitals where somebody has a certain opinion about a vaccine, like we saw, or whatever it may be. There's just certain protected places that you need kind of a trusted third party to have some human oversight.
yeah,
Because we can't let the robots necessarily go wild in those sacred places, if you will.
yeah. But that likely will happen, right? But the genie is out of the box. AI will be part of our life, and increasingly so. And the interesting part about it, Nick, is that I was born in 1940. So we didn't have even when I was in the workplace, we didn't have computers, we didn't have iPhones, and when I left Holland to go to Canada and to BC in particular, I would send telegrams to my parents. Hi, hello, I'm doing well. I found a job. I'm making $2 an hour, and that's great. And it's very exciting here. And stop and then wait for, at some point I would get a response. Now I take my cell phone, I push one button, I talk to anybody around the world.
It's incredible, and I know that still blows even my dad's mind, right? Who's worked in the field for a long time. He did the yellow pages when they went to Zip 2, so he was a part of that transition, which I couldn't imagine. And a lot of the guys that I worked with out of school were a bit older than me, and that was their bread and butter for a long time. So
Yeah,
I understood the technology of how cloud computing works, right? I studied the material, and then I ended up building relationships with all the big vendors. And, these guys had really successful careers selling T1 lines and phone servers, if you remember that.
oh yeah,
And all of that went away. The fascinating thing about our country, not sure if Canada's the same way, but in the US, like, we could always revert back to the phone lines. In China, God forbid if anything were to happen. I know there's a lot of talk about that today, and if anything were to happen, they skipped right to the cell towers, the 5G,
yeah.
and we could always revert back to that. I'm not sure how comfortable we'd be with the old phones and the cords, um, but we could always revert back, which is fascinating.
Yeah, the interesting part about it, Nick, is that in a lifetime, like for myself, when I was in my 20s, I already was here then in Canada, and all of that really started to happen in the 60s, 70s, 80s, and with the first Apple computers and the Microsoft and all of that, all happened in that short period. And I still have friends. I had one friend that was a lawyer. Actually, he retired now finally, but he wouldn't use email. So I said, how can you possibly exist if you don't even have that contact? But on the other hand, for myself, I sometimes get overwhelmed a bit by the technology, but we're using it every day. So I have iPhones and computers, obviously, and and it has helped me in terms of writing my books and managing companies, and so it's just very much part of life. It makes you then wonder, where will it go from here? But the next part that will have a major impact on our lives, I believe, is AI, and it will be for the better. It is not something to fear or something that we even think about. We can put the genie back in the bottle, because that's not going to happen. That is now part of our lives.
Absolutely. And brought up another interesting point, which is a lot of lawyers still are that way. And I'm sure he was billing you by the hour, and paper could take a long time to print. And it reminds me, I'm going to make another Tom Cruise reference, but The Firm, where he's sitting at the printer, and, it's like, that's going to be 2 hours, right? Because it's amazing in itself, just going online, right? Digitalization, how much time is saved by eliminating those tasks, just by just thinking about, like, sitting at a printer, right, for a couple hours and
Yeah,
waiting for a long contract to print.
yeah, and the same in government and politics, and what will happen to it all? How will it all kind of intermesh? The other part, obviously, is that I'm quite active in podcasting internationally. I have you from the United States. Just today, I had somebody from Australia. Last week, we had somebody from Athens, Greece, somebody from Peru, and it just goes on and on and on. So we are now interconnecting, and the way it feels to me, in a way, is that you may initially, when I started blogging first for interaction, then a form of podcasting I was doing mainly regionally here, and then thought, well, maybe I need to set up another studio in Vancouver or in a larger center, because we had run out of a lot of interesting people here, and very popular people, until we started looking at virtual, which is very seamless now, and then then linked into Podmatch, that allows us to podmatch around the globe, and I think huge potential.
Well, it's incredible. And my biggest thought around that, who is someone who really wants to travel, I have a friend who travels a lot. He founded a company called Book Thinkers. It's great if you're looking to do some marketing for your book. That's his focus, and he helped me a great deal. I haven't, I've been I was born into an America First family, right? I still believe in a lot of those traditions. However, I have an open mind. I mean, I would love to go out and see things with my own eyes. I know that the news doesn't always accurately depict what's going on in a certain area or city, or, right, the story might be skewed. So I like to experience things for myself a great deal. And I've been all over the US, as well as Montreal, and a little bit of the Virgin Islands, Cayman. But no, I have a huge desire to go out and explore and see how other cultures live and think. I think that's a super important way to develop your brain and your mind, and just be open to different things. A big takeaway that I got from the interconnectedness is cost of labor, right? So, I had a call with someone in India the other day, which, a fun fact, I learned that HVAC isn't really a thing over there. So they don't really have central air or heat, which I didn't know. So, but they have a lot of great software developers, and they can eat for like a week on like less than $20. So for them, that's a great sum of money. But for us, that's you're lucky to get McDonald's for $20 today.
Exactly.
It, and so it's just fascinating to wrap my head around that, where this wasn't possible, even just before the pandemic, right? These things,
Yeah.
I wasn't able to randomly make contact with somebody over WeChat and send them money, have a video call, say, okay, I like this person. I can kind of trust him. Maybe I'll send a small payment and see how he does with it. And, as we build some rapport, maybe I pay him a little more and he helps with any number of things, whether it be marketing or software development. It's just amazing that I, as a business owner, can have that level of access. And I think a lot's going to change in that regard, how people work in that way, because they're capable of doing a lot of the same things that we are.
Yeah, and already that's happening, right? Where people, I find it with the telephone services, for one, is that a lot of times you can hear that the person is not from, likely, more than likely, not North America. In a lot of cases they are, maybe, but in a lot of cases, or when I ask them, where are you from? They say, India. Whoa.
That's true. A lot of the scams do still come out of India, and do they'll do anything. Whoever's paying them. So if that's where they're getting their money, they'll take it.
Yeah,
So it's unfortunate. You have to be careful and educated, and I put a lot of
right.
emphasis on that because a lot of this stuff is new, and you have to be really careful about who you're sending money to. Never do it in a panic
No,
or something of that sort. And that's where my firm, I could see having the ability to add the most value, because I don't always expect the high income lawyer or accounting firm or marketing agency or whatever to be super technically savvy. You don't have to be. That's not your profession, right?
no.
So leverage someone like us to help you with that sort of thing. And that's where I think we're going to be able to add the most value, is that human oversight of saying, okay, we stopped you from sending $40,000 to this account,
Exactly.
foreign country that you'll probably never see again. So, that's where I see the industry headed.
So that your relationship then and your company, keeping it nimble and efficient is more or less, complementing companies in the area of IT, but also AI, and guiding them into the new directions, in terms of that. Obviously, IT will always be an area of that leaves room for getting experts involved to examine somebody's organization and saying where can we improve, and then the other one is in terms of AI. How do we incorporate that part in our business and our daily processes and procedures? And again, where are the opportunities?
Absolutely. And, I think you hit the nail on the head there. It's coming in and saying, where are you at in your business today? We need to have a conversation, a business conversation. Are you looking to grow? Are you looking to maintain your business? Are you looking to cut costs and sell? There's a lot of different approaches you can take there with AI, right? And not everyone is super comfortable. There is this kind of fear. Not everyone's as comfortable as I am with it. And yeah, I remember the first night Chat GPT got released. I couldn't sleep for 2 nights straight. I was just like, wow. I had a laundry list of things that needed to get done,
Yeah.
and I was able to knock it out in like 48 hours. And I was like, this is going to change everything.
Wow.
So, yeah, and having that ability and being able to walk into an organization and say, we can automate all these different processes, and then what I'm seeing, which I don't like, is you have massive companies. I don't know if all of them, right? Pick one, have laid people off. All the big tech companies from Amazon, et cetera, and they've laid people off, and it's largely due to this automation piece. But their profitability has gone up like 20%. It's like at what point, and they all have massive yachts by now. It's like, come on, you're gonna put this family out of work for God knows how long. It's kind of silly. Mass layoffs became normalized in like the last 10 years, but they weren't always so popular, right? And it's kind of sad to see. So yeah, I think you'll have more time in your calendar, and I think you get 2 real good hours of deep work, like hyper focusing per day. I think that's pretty common. I think just we need to change the way that we work. And are we really that? How much of our time is really being used effectively anyway?
Right.
And we just need to repurpose. I think creative work and soft skills now are going to be coming back in a big way. I think for a very long time, you had only technical founders, and software development was a gatekeep skill set, right? By only the most elite of the elite. And you had to go live out in Silicon Valley, California, and nobody else could figure this out, right? And only the most elite schools taught these languages, right? Only the most prestigious companies with the most intense vetting processes would hire you. And if you wanted to start a startup, you would often go to one of these, leave, and go out on your own. And that was really the only way to do it for a while.
Yeah.
And this is really the rise of AI has democratized that and has opened the door for go to market leaders, sales professionals, business professionals to kind of throw their hat in the ring and take a stab at the entrepreneurshp game, which is fantastic.
Yeah. So what I see now is that I was lucky enough. I had one of the fellows that was VP in Amazon, or was quite involved with Amazon from 2000 to 2004. Very interesting podcast, actually. Just during the period that Amazon, again looking at that model, I hope to get Jeff Bezos on my podcast here one of these days, but he will at some point. I'm sure. I'm just gonna keep hounding him. But that they went from selling books as a business model at one point, and then they had to switch, or they saw the opportunity. Where do we go from here? And added the whole new model of selling virtually everything.
Oh,
And where now, we see these warehouse structures all over the place, and distributing with their fleet of cars, delivering products to the market, and saying that's something that never even existed 10, 15, 20 years ago. It's a whole
I
new
know.
model.
It really is. And I hope you can interview him on his boat because it's pretty incredible. I think someone took a video of it down in the Caribbean recently, um, and 3 sails, and it's quite the sight. Well, I borrowed something from his playbook, which is books are kind of this sacred place in our society, right?
Right,
It's almost like a form of art. It's a product. You could sell it. And no matter what's going on in the world, books are very protected,
right.
especially in the United States. And I basically borrowed something from Bezos, really, quite frankly. And I'm sure I can't confirm this because he's never said it. I've checked, but I'm convinced he had a similar thought in his mind, which was I need a product. To be a company, I need a product to sell.
Yeah,
That's the definition of a company.
yeah,
So I'm convinced that he saw the same thing that I saw, which was a book was going to be the easiest thing, the least regulated item, freedom of speech. We're able to get that to market probably faster than anything else. And
right.
I saw that, and that was a correlation I made with Astute. I did, and went to market. And I priced my book much like an app. $4.99 ebook, $9.99 paperback, $19.99 for the
Oh, I'm
hardcover.
losing you.
Oh, sure. And
Yeah.
I priced it like app pricing. So $4.99, $9.99, $19.99 for the hardcover. And I just went to market with it. I did it independently, so my prices don't fluctuate, and it was a great thing. And I did have some help, and I leveraged all the resources I had, and it would be great. So if you could ask him that when you do speak to him, I would love to know if that's what his thought was.
I will do that. And so you were successful in bringing your book. Yeah, what I found about the books is that uh, already for a long time people said to me, "Oh, you have such an interesting life. You should write a book about it." And and so then I tried for about 20 years. I stopped. I started. I stopped. I start. Writing books is not easy, as you well know. And then, then about 5, 6 years ago, I knew if I didn't do it now, it likely would not happen. And so I then started writing it, and the book is Against All Odds, and quite successful actually. And it's an autobiography now. It's the first book that I wrote, and I knew an autobiography. It had to be right. I could not say, I don't like it, I'll do another one. No, you got one crack at it. Either you do it right or it doesn't work. And then the second one that I did is the one ADHD Unlocked, very popular. I want to get distributed even further. And then another book I did is, there's so many people don't like what they are doing. Hear it over and over again. I hate my job. I say, stop then, get something different. And then because it affects everything around you if you don't like to do, but it's your job. And then a lot of times I go to speak to younger people, and I ask them, I said, what do you want to do for a career? And they say, I don't know. So, well, shouldn't you find out, at least respectfully, and start looking at it? You want to be a truck driver? You want to be a builder or a contractor? Or you want to be a lawyer or a doctor or even an entrepreneur? And so I wrote a book about that. Finding your passion, living the dream.
Oh wow,
And
that's the name of my Wi-Fi is "Living the Dream," not the password. Just
it's it. And then I wrote one more, is that the other thing at my age in particular, what is important, is stay fit and healthy. So it's not your age, so much. It is quality of life, and so I'm very careful about my diet, and then I go to the gym, and I'm writing a book about living young, dying old, and that will come out in August. And as you can
it's
see
cool.
there, I'm also the oldest competitive bodybuilder in North America, apparently. And so
That
I
is
qualified for the nationals.
badass is the word.
Yeah, I qualified for the nationals and for the Arnolds. And now again, I'm training to go back to the Arnolds when I'm 85 and 2025. So
You've inspired me. Your story is incredible, and I hope to do half as much. And reading the whole story, it's fantastic, and I think that you've touched on all the critical components, and especially diet. I can totally relate to that piece, and can see how the challenges of life get to you, and it's easy to let your diet go or fall out of a routine, and you really need a lot of self discipline, and
exactly.
your gut and your mind are so connected. Whereas if I eat the wrong thing, it could throw me off for an entire day. Um, I've found for myself personally, and hopefully this helps somebody else, but just a high protein diet is incredible. I eat the vast majority of what I eat is lean meat, and it's been incredible for me. Whether it's fish, chicken, lean beef, I used to do the full blown carnivore diet, and my
Right.
brain was like firing on all cylinders.
Right.
Um, So you can, if you optimize all those things, it'll help you in every single aspect of your life. There's
Yeah.
no question. There's no question about it.
Yeah, and then stay fit and be healthy. You don't have to go like what I. You don't have to become an Olympian or a champion of some sort, but at least work out. Even stay active half an hour a day, 20 minutes a day. It will at least keep you fit to a certain extent, and the more you do, the better. And then diet is so critically important. Both my wife, myself, she is vegan, and I'm probably 80-20, and and I stay away from processed food, for obvious reasons, and between that and staying fit, get a good night's sleep. Sleep 7 to 8 hours, critically important. Have a healthy diet and stay physically fit, mentally fit, stay active, and and those are all critical parts for longevity. Or I want to live until I'm 120.
I love that attitude. I was saying 200, but that sounds good. 120. Yeah. Because
Show us.
eventually my business will take off, right? It'll be, I'll be Bezos if I live forever, eventually it'll work. Something will work.
It's about quality of life first and foremost, Nick. So show us your book and show us a website how people can contact you.
Sure. All right. So this is my my first edition paperback of Digitalization, the new normal of the post-pandemic world, which I'm
Okay.
copyrighted.
Is it available on all the
Yes.
major
So
Amazon
Barnes
and
and
all
Noble, Walmart, Amazon is the primary distributor. We're super
audio?
excited. Audiobook, yeah, yep.
Yeah.
I actually I worked with a audio producer on that, and that was super cool. And
Yeah.
I wanted to have someone else read it. I don't know. I'm doing the
Yeah.
podcast thing now, but as a writer, I thought that'd be kind of neat
Yeah.
to share some of the pie because I didn't use a publisher, right? So I wanted to get some other people involved.
Yeah.
And so I did that, and then I actually published a second version, and I'm becoming comfortable enough to share more personal stories in the next one. So I'm really excited about that. However, this was a great way to get a product to market, leverage the resources that I had at the time. The world was paused and shut down, and I wanted to use my time well. I had a lot of energy, and I wanted to get something out there. So this was my contribution to the world at the time.
So I will sign 3 of these books. The other one is coming out in August, Living Young, Dying Old. But I will send you signed copies of the 3 books that I showed you, including ADHD Unlocked and Against All Odds as well. And Scott will get your address, and then probably later this week or early next week, we'll send you copies of the book.
Oh, that'd mean a lot, and I'll do the same. I'll reciprocate that. So I would appreciate it. We're a little bit back ordered because we just had our largest foreign order, which is really exciting from Germany actually. So
Good.
it took a little bit longer to get into the foreign markets. So I'm just starting to get approved in all these other areas and countries. So it's all new and exciting for me.
Did you have it in German or in English?
It's only in English, but I might transcribe it depending on how. If it keeps trending in this direction, perhaps using a tool like ChatGPT or with AI today, it wouldn't take long to transcribe it into a different language with AI. I'm sure
Yeah,
there's some nuances, however, that'd be kind
yeah,
of cool.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm going to do that with mine. Give us some ideas about marketing once we send you these. So we'll send them to you. Take a look at it. I believe they are all good. They will all become million copy sellers. And I think there's a company now, Barnes and Noble, I believe, that wants to carry ADHD.
Oh wow, that's awesome. I'm only in their online store, but I'd love to get in their physical locations. That's fantastic. Congratulations.
Thanks, Nick. So thank you for the podcast of being my guest. Any last thoughts that you have before we go?
No, thank you for having me, first and foremost. I'm on all social channels. N Lorizio, my last name, is my @ symbol.
Okay.
LinkedIn, I'm very active on the professional network, my book, and I'm accessible via email. I'm happy to chat if makes sense. So thank you so much for having me, and I hope we stay in touch.
It was a privilege and a pleasure, Nick, and we'll stay in touch.
Sounds
Take
good.
care.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.